Hello there.
Alrighty then, my Jedi and Sith friends, hello and welcome back to another Star Wars video. So, as promised, today we are breaking down the D23 Star Wars Starfighter footage. Yesterday we spoke about the Ahsoka Season 2 trailer, which was amazing by the way, and you know, go check that out if you missed it. But today, we are focusing on the next big Star Wars movie release. And I just want to say, the reactions to the footage in-house were pretty mixed. Some people are underwhelmed by the overall synopsis and premise of this film, which I will get to in just a moment, while others were actually very impressed, especially by the scale of this film. I personally find myself in the latter category, because while it is true that this is yet another Star Wars project focused on a father-like figure and child dynamic, similar to what we saw in The Mandalorian, The Bad Batch, even more Shadow Lord to some extent, this trailer looked unlike anything we've seen before in the galaxy far, far away. And not to mention the huge focus on aerial combat. And in this way you can really see the Top Gun influence. I mean, the movie is literally called Starfighter for good reason. So for this video, we're just going to begin with a few new reveals from Lucasfilm before we dive into the actual footage. But stay tuned, don't go anywhere, I promise you it's worthwhile. And we're going to begin with some major new comments from Shawn Levy, who was asked how this movie ties into the sequel trilogy. And to be more precise, what is the state of the galaxy 5 years on from Episode 9? What kind of government is in charge after the fall of the First Order and after Palpatine's death? And he said, well, this is a moment in the galaxy where there is no kind of government, order, or law-enforcing force. Law-enforcing force? Sorry, that just felt really weird in my mouth. So in other words, everyone is just trying to survive, each doing what they need to get by. In essence, the Resistance hasn't formed a new republic. And that means that, inevitably, there's a power vacuum. And I can imagine that there's a lot of scum and villainy taking place. Scoundrels and bounty hunters, warlords are all taking advantage. And another huge reveal is that we have confirmation of Ryan Gosling's character's name. And it is, as was rumoured, Cade. It's Cade with a K, so he is not Cade Skywalker. He's Cade Oberon. I think a lot of us got our hopes up when those initial reports came out and said he was called Cade, but it could just be that this character is inspired by the one from the expanded universe. But this Cade is officially described as follows. He's a guy from the wrong side of the universe, whose fate is intertwined with the fastest starfighter ever built, one that he stole. Shawn Levy says that this guy is a former rogue, with a past that becomes very important as the story unfolds, and he learns that he cannot run away from his mistakes. Levy goes on to say, Starfighter embodies the themes of hope, family, and adventure that have always been core to Star Wars, but our story takes place in a time period that's never been explored. Also important to note, my friends, and this is something which Ryan Gosling unveiled on stage, Cade sports an awesome skull and crossbones jacket, and you'll notice the skull is an upside down Rebel Alliance emblem. And I'm wondering if this is a clue as to the kind of rogue he once was. Was he part of a Resistance or New Republic faction that held more extreme ideals? A little bit like Saw Gerrera's partisans, but further down the timeline. Just a bit of food for thought. But then, the official synopsis provided by Lucasfilm says this. When a cynical rogue is confronted by his mysterious past, he is hurled into a dangerous adventure across the galaxy, putting him on a crash course with his own destiny. And I do agree with some fans that this doesn't tell us very much, it sounds very generic to be honest, but at the moment, for whatever reason, they're trying to keep things under wraps. I'm happy the Ahsoka Season 2 trailer was for everyone, but they should have done the same thing for Starfighter. Given the box office for The Mandalorian and Grogu was really underwhelming, aside from just us diehard fans, they need to pull the general cinema-going audience back in. And I've said from day one that Ryan Gosling has the potential to do that, so they shouldn't wait too long. But they also unveiled a different, new logo. And I get that they're trying to do the retro thing, trying to harken back to the original Star Wars logo, but for a modern Star Wars film like this, one which boasts a lot of action and visual effects, I think they should have stuck to the original one unveiled at Star Wars Celebration in Japan. I thought that logo reveal was really unique. It really stood out. I loved the orange-yellow hue, and almost the Formula 1 feel about it. It felt like a Star Wars racing movie. But now, my friends, on to the trailer itself. It opens with Flynn Gray's character, who's called Roan, opening the door to a workshop. We see a mysterious starfighter which is covered up. The walls are full of computers. This is a garage of sorts. Roan then goes over to the ship and removes the dusty cover. This is when Ryan Gosling comes in. The character of Cade who is the boy's uncle, and Roan isn't supposed to be touching the ship. And then the kid says, "What kind of starfighter is this?" And this is where we get a big piece of information because Cade responds, "It's a decommissioned G-17 Imperial Reaper, the fastest starfighter ever built." As our main protagonist begins to pull the cover back over it, Roan tells him that he's never heard of it, and Cade replies, "There's a reason for that." So before we continue with the breakdown, I just want to share with you some of my thoughts about this. The G-17 Reaper might have been a prototype being worked on by the Empire of Old, or more recently the First Order. Based on what Shawn Levy said, I think this was a ship that Cade stole from them, and now remnants of the First Order might be after it. The remnants might be trying to reverse engineer the ship, and it might hold the secrets to whatever else they're working on. Then we see shots of a speeder racing across a swampland. We then see the G-17 landing and the back of Cade's jacket. Gosling's character is also carrying what appears to be a large blaster of sorts. And then we're introduced to a new droid sitting in the cockpit. I wonder if this character is the one that Simon Bird voices, because we know how much Star Wars can't resist a droid with a British accent. He's kind of got a glossy grey look to him and has two light blue eyes. We then see the droid taking off in the ship, and he's surrounded by several people trying to shoot it down. At the end of the teaser, Cade fully pulls off the covers of the G-17. He stares into the cockpit glass, and that's when they reveal the brand new logo. So a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. And now, my friends, huge spoiler warning, we need to talk about a major Starfighter leak from MakingStarWars.net. If you don't want detailed specifics of a major fight scene, you might want to click away at this point. Go check out my Ahsoka breakdown. But like I say, Making Star Wars got word of a fight sequence from the movie, and they're very confident about it. And by the way, it also reveals a couple of new characters. Let's dive straight into it. So they say, here is a compiled and fact-checked description of an entire sequence involving Ryan Gosling's Cade, the kid named Roan, and a mysterious woman named Belle, and one very bad decision involving an undefeated fighter. So the scene starts with Cade and the kid entering a nightclub, with 3 fighting rings going on at the same time. The kid spots a beautiful woman dressed head to toe in gold, and he says, "Is that her?" And I believe, by the way, my friends, that Belle is being played by Ryan Gosling's wife, Eva Mendes. So then we see a Kowakian monkey lizard, who calls the woman Belle. She walks over to one of the rings where a fighter is down, and asks, "How many fingers am I holding up?" The fighter doesn't respond, and so she says, "Yeah, he's gone." Then she spots Cade, and apparently, in the story, they've got a lot of history, a bit like Bix and Cassian. Essentially, for one reason or another, Cade is after a key from Belle, but she won't give it to him, and so Cade's offer is that he'll fight for it, and so Belle makes a deal with him. If Cade is able to stay long enough in the ring to win, she'll give him the key. So Cade is very happy to go along with this, but then his opponent enters, and he is a giant husk of a fighter, massive goggles and massive muscles. So the fight basically goes exactly how you'd expect. Cade is being thrown about, he's losing badly, but then something strange happens. The fighter punches Cade, but Cade is somehow able to catch his fist, and suddenly it's looking like Cade has the upper hand, but it's not Cade who's doing it, it's the kid. This is when it's revealed that Roan has the Force. He doesn't really know how to control it fully, but he has it. And Belle notices. She deliberately steps into the kid's line of sight, and his concentration breaks, and then Cade is knocked out cold. But in the end he wins. His opponent is exhausted, knocked out, and because Cade survived long enough, on a technicality, he's the one who wins. And so barely conscious, Cade raises one arm in victory, but the crowd is furious. Their undefeated champion just lost, and the scene ends with Belle giving them the key. We don't know what it's to unlock, presumably something to do with the ship, but it's in this scene that we learn that the kid has the Force. So even though the film centers around the G-17 Starfighter, as the rumor suggested, it might end up being a film about getting the kid to other Jedi who can train him. Some really interesting stuff, my friends, but what do you think? Are you intrigued by this premise? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and may the Force be with you always.